I've got to say, our LCS lock-in format genuinely might be one of my favorites of any domestic split that we've seen across any esport. Like, I get it's a short time period, so obviously things are a little bit more accelerated, a little bit more intense, but there's just something about Swiss that I freaking love. And it wraps up this weekend, but unfortunately, Super Bowl Sunday is also here upon us. So I'm not giving up my Vavoni concert for the sake of the LCS. So let's talk about it. But I'll be watching mostly on VOD this weekend. First, I want to give you all an update from last Friday. In case you only catch my YouTube videos here, yeah, I got co-streaming rights late on Friday night. So everything got announced on Saturday, took a while to prep. But yes, I co-streamed last weekend of the LCS, and the numbers were honestly incredible. I'll put them like down below and to the sides as you're seeing here. It was a blast, and I will be co-streaming again on Saturday. Sunday, obviously not because of the Super Bowl. But I wanted to talk about the layout because it was something that I asked for feedback for and I want to give an update on. This, as you're seeing here, was actually the setup whenever I'm out of game. I normally have like a table in front. Those of you that watch saw it. The broadcast is up here on the left. I have the next match up here on the right just so that we always know what's going on. And people seem to like that. What people weren't necessarily the biggest fan of was the overlay that I used while in game. You're seeing it on screen now. The idea was to take it after the Optic co-stream, which uses multiple cameras on the left side. And my thought was, okay, I replace one of the cameras with chat. People warn me about the problems of chat, which I'm small enough now that it's not a problem. But if things were to grow, for example, and somebody comes in and types the wrong thing in chat, I need to take that more seriously than I was initially giving it credit for. Shout out to those on Twitter and on YouTube that highlighted the issue. So I spent a lot of time talking to my wife, and I want to show you all something. This is the in-game overlay that I want to use going forward while in games, and it's just me. The biggest thing, as you're seeing below, is that it still will highlight the next match, and whenever I do pick my team, it will show just my team when they play next, if it's on the same day, the time of the game. Like, this is designed to focus on the team that I want. But it's notably in the top left corner here to not be intrusive, and the vertical video does suit better for how I have things set up with the table. Let me know your thoughts. I hope people like this a little bit better, but it's only my second week of co-streaming, so we'll always continue to improve. I don't have an exact time of when that co-stream is going to be live tomorrow. It depends on what my parents and I end up doing during the day, but I will definitely be live for the second series. I'm just not sure about the first yet. I know limited time. Starting next week, I'll be here permanently. You don't have to worry about me missing a thing for the rest of lock-in. Which, speaking of, let me explain the format for this upcoming weekend. So while it is still Swiss stage, there's two important things that will be happening this weekend as two teams are going home, and one team will get their choice of teams. But because obviously it's not a win 3, lose 3 like we're used to in spring, I think it deserves its own explanation. So, starting off with Dignitas versus Shopify. The loser of this series will be 0-3 after Swiss stage and automatically eliminated from the event. Pretty clear cut. The winner then goes into a pool of 1-2 teams, of which there will be 3. The loser of Team Liquid versus Sentinels and the loser of DSG versus Lion. Of those 3, the team with the highest amount of wins after this weekend, which of note, Dignitas has 0, Team Liquid has 2 currently, Lion has 2, DSG has 3, and Sentinels has 3. Obviously prior to this upcoming weekend. So even in a loss, if you win a game, it could go a long way because the team of those 3 that has the highest amount of wins automatically is safe in playoffs. They go in as the 5th seed. And then there's a best of 3 tiebreaker for the 6th seed between the 2 teams that are 1 and 2 that have the least amount of wins. Hopefully that makes sense. If it doesn't, I can clarify in the comments. Like, it'll play out very simply this weekend, but I just wanted to explain that again. The bigger part is that Cloud9 versus FlyQuest, the winner goes 3-0, and notably, we'll get to pick of the teams that are 2 and 1, of which there will be 3, to select who they want to play in their opening round upper bracket matchup. It's still double elimination, so they're fine, but there's a hilarious nature when you think about the fact that C9 could get their pick again, which they got in summer of last split with the LTA North, and it ended up being an upset. They disrespect, well, it's not that they didn't Shopify was not going to be a favorite there, but they still pick Shopify. They lose to them after picking them and don't end up going to Worlds. So if you're C9 and you beat FlyQuest here, don't pick the wrong team again, which I get there's probably going to be a pretty clear-cut choice between the 3, but still, just be wary. It would be interesting if history repeated itself again. Before we get into the matchup previews for this upcoming weekend, let's talk about LCS fantasy. An important lesson for everybody to learn is that any changes that you make to your market or your team selections, you need to confirm and hit this white button. Otherwise, they won't save, which is exactly what happened to me last week when I picked my team, laid it out, but did not confirm it. So I didn't get the players that I ultimately wanted, which might have been beneficial coming into this week, but alas, here we are. Shout out to Pedro, who actually makes and runs this site. He reached out to me on Twitter last week saying, hey, did you know you could just scroll over and click on the last week's points and filter down, and it will give you the exact list of the top performers? Yeah, my dumbass could not find that button for whatever reason. But this past week, Sentinels had one hell of a week with Hambach, Rahel, Golden Glue, which notably would include every single player on the team or the highest average, and Huhi all finishing within the top 4, Cryogen being the only one outside of Sentinels to finish in the top 5. But the question becomes, what do we do this week? Morgan is still the lowest point top laner in the league. The only one that I would even think about considering swapping him out for would be Dokla, because I like the Lion matchup against DSG, but honestly, Morgan had higher points this past week, and I think Sentinels will be a good opponent again. What else can you really say? Like, Impact scored 21, Gakkos obviously got a lot, but like, I like the TL matchup this week, so I'm not going to be touching neither Spawn nor Morgan on this lineup. However, Shopify, I am a bit worried about, given that contracts got me 0.63 points this past week. Not great. Obviously. You compare that to the 25-point differential that Jose Dioto got. Oh, I wish. But there's really not much I can do here because contracts is already at the bottom, so it's not like I can really trade up in any way, shape, or form. I do want to try and enact the change that I made last week, or well, tried to, which is getting APA on my roster in some way, shape, or form. So I think in order to free up those points, first and foremost, we were going to remove our mid lane currently with Saint. Huhi has obviously risen a good bit, had 25 or 26 points this past week, which helped me out a lot, but I don't think he's going to be doing that again. So, with that in mind, I'm personally down to drop him. In order to get APA, I need to make sure I have 18.1 points, which means I have 18.1 to work with on this pick as well. And personally, I think Isles is going to be a good pickup. I mean, I know there's going to be some combination team issues. I guess picking the same bot lane together might not be the best thing in the world, but hey, I'm still absolutely down for it. I'm going to say the Leona, for some godforsaken reason, actually gets picked here. That gives me enough points by 0.1 to pick up APA, and as always, plays Azir. And now I have confirmed the roster, so I feel a lot better with this. These are all teams that I think are going to win this week. I feel pretty confident with it. The variety buff is pretty nice as well. And there is the possibility of Shopify Rebellion actually playing 2 series, which I guess could give contracts additional points. Maybe? I don't know. Lion could also play 2 as well if they lose the first one. We'll see. Be sure to join the Shineknockers LCS Fantasy group. I need to come up with a better name than Shineknockers, to be honest, because we talked about it last week on the co-stream where it's like the LCS comment is like the Shy Shack for like the co-stream itself. I'm not a fan of the Shy Guys label for the community because that runs into copyright issues with Nintendo, say things do take off for whatever reason. And then Shineknockers, the Knockers, is not very inclusive. Just doesn't roll off the tongue quite well, or you kind of feel a little bit weird using it. So, I'm going to let the community come up with whatever name we decide for ourselves on this one. Within reason, obviously. But I'm not stuck or like permanently with the whole Shineknockers thing, but we could change it at any given point. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Any ideas for the community name? Like the Rats for Cadril? I don't know what ours would be. I gotta think. Now, back to this week's matchups, of which, honestly, every game that I'm seeing here in front of me looks pretty damn close. We'll go in exact schedule order to replicate things. And first, we have Team Liquid versus Sentinels early on Saturday. There are 2 specific matchups that I want to highlight here. One, which is obviously going to be the most important, and that is Impact versus Morgan. Impact playing against Team Liquid since he left them for the very first time, and it would be pretty cool to see Impact come back and have some success against his former team. But Morgan, notably in week 2, warmed up a little bit more than the first week where he was coming in on just a few days of play and not very well rested and probably jet lagged. Like, it feels like this Team Liquid roster that we saw at the end of last week and now again in week 3 should be what was promised in scrims to a certain extent, but also just plays a little bit cleaner. I mean, TL kicked the teeth in of Shopify this past week. Now, whether that's Shopify being bad or not, Only time will tell, but either way, they did look good. I do expect this matchup to go in Morgan's favor. I think most of us should, but it will be interesting to see if Impact has that little bit of extra drive. The other one that I do want to look at for this one is actually Jose Dioto versus Hambach, who, if you look through the first 2 weeks, I would say these are two of the better performing junglers in the league right now. There's an argument for Jose Dioto to be one of the best behind Inspired. Hambach also playing very well, but notably against weaker teams. So this will be the first real test between these two to see, okay, one, is Hambach the real deal? If he stands up to TL, that's a great sign for Jose Dioto, cementing himself, not only on the top team with Team Liquid per expectations, but also within the Rift play, or in the game play, because many people were doubting him as probably one of the weaker links and the questionable pickup of the offseason. Personally, I just think Sentinels has had an easy schedule so far. That's the nature or beauty kind of losing the first round in Swiss stage. Team Liquid, similar story, but I think they just look better. So by proxy, I am going to go Team Liquid 2-0 here. I think this will be the least close matchup of the entire weekend. Next series is DSG versus Lion. And this is one of those where, look, all the pressure in the world is on Lion. Everybody's eyes were on Saint after 2 of the fumbles that happened last week, although it was noted by, I think, the FlyQuest coaching staff that there might have been a bug with that Nocturne Orianna play in the bush by Dragon, I believe in game 1 of that series, where you shouldn't be able to sweep her in a bush that has a control ward, because it should, I guess, clear or like prevent you from having vision there, which wouldn't have then given away their position, which would have led to a pretty good pick and probably a game 1 win for Lion, all things considered. Now, game 2 is still a little bit ugly at points, but regardless, it was a bit of a tilter and had everybody looking at Lion being like, okay, is this starting early? Maybe, maybe not. It also was C9. This week, it's DSG, being transparent, an opponent that everybody should be looking at Lion to take care of business, but DSG has been surprising all split long so far. That will now notably will include rookie jungler Kryra, who is here, who is playing, and will have his debut against arguably the Western GOAT right now. That is one hell of a debut. If he can hold his own and DSG continues to look like they have so far this split, this could be very entertaining. And when all the pressure is on Lion's shoulders, yeah, like you're playing completely free. If you're DSG, nobody expects anything of you. Come out, upset Lion, send them to a possible elimination game. Oh, that could be interesting. Will it happen? No, I can't say that I'm fully on that train. I think Lion has looked good despite their losses. So I am personally going to go Lion 2-1. DSG seems to have this ability to push teams to the distance, and I would like to see that happen here. I know people will say, oh, there's a difference between liking something to happen and wanting something to happen, and it actually happening. I actually believe it will go 2-1 in this particular series, but Lion will clutch out. Then we have the elimination game, which has the funniest potential storyline of all time. Well, not of all time, but of this split so far, which is Palafox versus his old team. Palafox was very much the scapegoat last year for Shopify. That's not saying that he was playing great. He was playing bad, but like there's this idea with Shopify that yes, Palafox was the reason we were not playing well. And imagine a world where Dignitas, the organization that has little to no expectations on them this split, with Palafox in mid lane, comes in and in lock-in in the very first week, knocks out, or well, very first part of the split, knocks out Shopify Rebellion. Oh man, would that be funny. Is it going to happen? No, I don't think so. Shopify is genuinely better in most lanes, or at least they should be. I could see a world where Palafox gets the better of Zinni in lane, because Zinni seems like he's going to need a little bit of time. But like top lane, no, I'll still take Fudge over Photon. Bot lane, I will give to B-Boy and Seos over FBI and Ignar. And jungle, yes, I very much give that to Contracts over XU. So this should go in Shopify's favor. But there's something telling me that this is going the distance as well and going to a 2-1 before Dignitas does get knocked out. The final matchup of the weekend then gives us C9 versus FlyQuest, where again, it's a battle in the jungle. You have Griffin, a guy who many C9 fans were actually looking at. Like, in a world where C9 would have moved on from Blabber, this was kind of the guy that I saw many people wanting to pick up. Him versus Blabber should be interesting because Griffin has been playing the super aggressive style, something that we used to see Blabber on back in the Kindred Hecarim days. Will we see that version again? That I don't know, but I will say that APA is playing like one of the best mid laners, if not the best, in the league right now. Him getting the better of Quad here, I think, sets up pretty well for Blabber to have a good series. But obviously, we've seen Griffin make plays. Like, that's been his staple so far. And he's kind of become the face of FlyQuest, partially because we kind of spoke that one into existence, but also he just naturally has that personality. I want to see this. Like, this could be a passing of the torch moment of, like, Blabber is, like, the current generation best in class of North America. Griffin could be the next up. And this could be that first step towards, like, hey, the new kids are here now to stay. Do I think that's going to happen? No, I think C9 pretty handily take this series. Papa Smithy, when I talked to him yesterday on the Crossover podcast, if you need a good listen during work after this video or beyond, I sat down with Papa Smithy for an hour and a half yesterday, just talking everything LCS, global low esports economics, and beyond. You might enjoy the listen. But even he said, like, hey, I just hope we play well. There is this understanding that, look, you don't want to adjust expectations for FlyQuest just because they got these early wins. It still very much is a roster that will need time to develop and grow, and he's giving them that. So he's not expecting, or at least it didn't seem like he was expecting, a win versus C9 here, but obviously they'll take it if they can get it. It's just not going to happen this week. Give me 2-1 C9. Again, I still think FlyQuest can take a game. This is just the weekend of teams that can and should take games and push us the distance, but I do expect the better team for the most part to clutch up, which would then lead to a potential tiebreaker, depending on how the games go, between Shopify, DSG, and Sentinels, which makes sense. Like, that's kind of exactly how we saw the split playing out. Where that'll go, I don't know. There's no sense previewing a matchup that we don't know that's going to happen right now. So I would just say tune into the matchups. Be sure to watch. If you are not a football fan, then by all means, enjoy some LCS this weekend. If you're like me, I'm going to be listening to Bad Bunny in a bar in New York City that I know has a very large Puerto Rican presence, because it is going to be a party, and I want to be with the locals for this one. If you haven't already done so, be sure to drop a like, subscribe to the channel, and I will catch you tomorrow for our LCS co-stream and the Shinnok Watch Party returns. If not, I'll catch you on Monday for the top 5 plays, which might be a little bit delayed since obviously Sunday night I've got other things going on. This is just one weekend that's a little bit tough, but hey, I make you all promise 3 videos a week, 2 TikToks and shorts a day. I'll be there no matter what. You can count on me. I'll catch you later. Bye-bye.